else we got?
Honey Boy, which is an autobiographical script by former child star Shia LaBeouf, who in this film plays a version of his own father. It's directed by Har'el, who's making a narrative feature debut and had worked on a music video for Sigur Rós with Shia LaBeouf some years ago. Apparently, the origin of the script was from a therapeutic essay written whilst in a rehab session. So it began as a kind of act of self-examination and then turned itself into something which then produced the work of art. So the story is that we have somebody who is experiencing problems in their lives. They have been in front of. They've been public facing for quite a long time, and they are suffering from substance abuses, and they get arrested and they get sent to rehab, and they get told that they are suffering from PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. And very early on, the older version of the character, played by Luke Hedges, says, "Well, why? I haven't had any PTSD. I haven't had any trauma from which to suffer the post stress." And the film then goes back to their childhood and looks at their relationship with their father, in which we find, obviously the source of what is going on later on. In that childhood, the father is played by Shia LaBeouf, effectively playing a version of his own father. Here's a scene in which he is working on a movie. His father is his designated carer, the person who has to be on set with him. The father is separated from the mother, and the mother rings up to speak to him in the motel room in which they are staying.
Hey, Mom. How are you? Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. I was on set, and Mr. Walsh came.
Gary Walsh.
Harry Walsh.
Gary Walsh.
Gary Walsh. I don't know his first name. He asked me if I wanted to be in an MOW, Movie of the Week. It's shooting in Vancouver, and in a couple of months. And
You need to get your passport.
I think so. I think he's I think he can go. Hang on, let me ask. She wants to know if you can leave the country.
Why did she ask you that?
Well, she said because of your record.
I know because of my record. I'm asking why you're asking a 12-year-old woman.
So you can hear from that the tone of the film. What's interesting about this is, Shia LaBeouf is a really interesting case. I remember some years ago, I was just utterly dismissive of him because I was the Transformers movies and all the rest of it. And I remember my kids saying, no, he was actually, he did a lot of interesting stuff when he was a younger actor in a television series, which I hadn't seen. And then he sort of emerged from this cocoon and started making really interesting work. And in the case of this, the thing about it is, it could very easily turn into a navel-gazing exercise, kind of let me look at my past and let me unpack all my problems. But it doesn't, and it doesn't for a number of reasons. One of them is that in Noah Jupe, who plays the young Otis when he's 22, it has a really, really sort of great child star who is playing the kid who is in this circumstance in which he sort of understands what his father is wrestling with and all the problems with his father, but he sort of also doesn't because he's a kid. You also, the fact that it's written by Shia LaBeouf, but it's directed by somebody who appears to have both an intimate understanding of the story, but also enough distance to stop it from just being an act of self-referentiality. And then beyond that, the fact that it's played well enough that whilst you're watching it, you do believe in the character. His father is an old, did we say rodeo or rodeo? What do we say now?
Rodeo, I would have
thought. So his father is an old rodeo clown, somebody who appears to have channeled his own desire for success into the child, but he's also wrestling with his own demons, a recovering alcoholic, and goes to meetings in which he describes something. So an awful lot of it is to do with generational issues. He says at one point, it's you come from a history of alcoholics, and so the two bookending things are, on the one hand, somebody in a rehab thing in which they're being interviewed, and actually the interviewer said to them at one point, "Are you being honest with me, or are you mocking me?" And he said, I'm doing both at the same time. And there's a kind of slight sense of that with the film itself, but I thought it was really well done. And I did go in, I confess, I went in slightly anxious because I went in thinking this feels like it's going to be a very, very self-referential breastbeating, and it isn't. It has a lightness of touch and an honesty of tone to it that's really quite impressive. And Shia LaBeouf is terrific as the father. It's a really, really, really good performance. And the film is very well directed and has a kind of, an eerie atmosphere to it that it manages to sustain, which is at once kind of weirdly melancholic and also off kilter and out of sync with itself. So it's called Honey Boy, and it's easy to see why it is that it's getting such good reviews.